Okay, let's dive in. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Hello.
Today, we're tackling a really big one. It's this intense competition in artificial intelligence, specifically between the U.S. and China.
And we're basing this on an analysis you, the listener, shared with us. It takes a close look at this AI race right now in 2025.
Exactly. So our mission here is pretty straightforward. We're going to unpack the source material, pull out the key stuff, understand where the race stands in, well, a few critical areas.
And figure out what it actually means for you.
Right. Think of it as your fast track to getting up to speed on, honestly, a pivotal global tech trend.
Okay, let's get into what the source actually says.
So first up, the analysis looks at the foundational AI models, the sort of brains behind it all.
The core tech.
Yeah. And on the U.S. side, it really zooms in on OpenAI, specifically GPT-4o.
And what does the source highlight there?
Key things seem to be its real-time capabilities, the vision integration, how it can see images and just how fast it is.
Okay, speed and senses. But the source also points to something else for OpenAI, right? The ecosystem.
Exactly. That seems crucial, according to this analysis. It's not just the model itself, but how it connects through ChatGPT apps, developer APIs, that voice interaction piece.
So it's about embedding it everywhere, making it usable.
That seems to be the U.S. strength highlighted here, yeah, broad integration.
Okay, so then China. The analysis brings up Moonshot AI's Kimi chatbot.
It does, and the standout feature, the thing the source really emphasizes, is this massive context window. 2 million tokens.
2 million. The source calls that a world record, I believe.
It does.
And just quickly, for anyone less familiar, that context window, it's basically the AI's working memory, right? How much info it can juggle at once.
Exactly. 2 million tokens means it can process just enormous amounts of text simultaneously. Think whole books, huge research papers.
All at once. That's a different kind of power.
So you see the contrast the source is painting.
Yeah.
U.S. ecosystem and sort of accessibility. China pushing the limits on raw capacity, handling massive data loads.
And scaling fast. The source mentions that too.
Right, rapid scaling. Different strategic strengths are definitely emerging based on this analysis.
Okay, so that's the underlying models. But where does the source say this AI is actually, showing up? Robotics is next.
Yeah, robotics. We all kind of know Boston Dynamics in the U.S., right? The source positions them as the established, maybe more advanced player.
The ones with the very agile, sometimes slightly scary robots.
Huh, yeah. But the source points to really interesting stuff happening in China now. Xpeng's humanoid robot, Iron.
And Dobot's AI robot. Did the source mention a price on that one?
It did, and this number really jumped out, $27,500.
$27,500 for an AI robot.
Yeah. And that price point, according to the source, really tells a story about China's focus here. It seems to be about affordability and getting them deployed, mass deployment.
Exactly. The analysis suggests the strategy is practical application. Homes, offices, restaurants, getting functional AI robots into those settings.
So maybe less focused on the absolute cutting edge of, say, robot gymnastics.
Right. And more on making them affordable and useful in the real world quickly. The source says China is catching up by focusing here.
And what that could mean for you, the listener, is seeing these kinds of helper robots, maybe in service roles, sooner than you might expect based on that price point and deployment focus.
Okay, interesting. What's the next sector the source covers? EVs?
Electric vehicles, yeah. AI and EVs are deeply linked now. The source highlights Tesla, naturally on the U.S. side, characterizes them as commercial and innovation-driven.
Makes sense. And for China?
The analysis points to companies like BYD and NIO. And the key thing highlighted here is how deeply they're embedding AI into the actual driving systems.
Okay, how so?
The source specifically mentions something called China's God's Eye AI.
God's Eye AI. What does the source suggest that actually is?
Well, based on the analysis, it sounds like a really comprehensive perception system. It pulls data from lots of sensors.
I need a full picture.
Yeah, like a bird's eye view of everything around the car in real time. And the source notes this helps make driving decisions smoother, more proactive.
Interesting. And the analysis also mentioned a strategic angle for China in EVs.
It did. It pointed out this synergy between state-backed AI goals and their EV industry.
Ah, so government support, potentially pushing AI integration in cars faster.
That seems to be the implication in the source, yeah.
Okay.
Contrasting it with the more market-driven approach in the U.S., it suggests this could be a distinct edge for China in this particular space.
Okay, so we've seen models, robots, cars. Zooming out, What does the source say about the bigger picture, the global stakes?
Well, it makes it clear this isn't just about business competition. The analysis frames it as fundamentally geopolitical.
High stakes, then.
Extremely. The source basically argues that leading in AI positions a country to, well, lead the whole digital world order.
Wow. And it impacts critical areas, right? The source mentioned.
Healthcare, defense, education. All listed explicitly in the analysis. These are huge areas where AI leadership could translate to national advantage.
Yeah, it really underlines why this race is being watched so closely.
Absolutely, though the source does add an important point about collaboration.
Ah, right, despite the rivalry.
Yeah. It mentions the ongoing need for global discussion, especially around ethics and regulation, because the tech impacts everyone.
That's a crucial caveat. The race is on, but the implications demand some level of shared understanding or rules.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. Based on this deep dive into the source material you provided, what's the final verdict for 2025? Who's actually ahead?
Well, the source is quite careful here. It uses the phrase neck and neck.
Neck and neck. Okay, so it's close.
Very close, but the analysis does elaborate on why it's neck and neck, highlighting those strategic differences we discussed.
Right. So what are those key differences again, according to the source?
It points to China having an edge in scaling faster, pushing for mass deployment, getting things out there.
Like with the robots and potentially the EVs.
Exactly. While the U.S., according to this analysis, still holds the lead in the really cutting-edge foundational breakthroughs, the core innovation.
Like GPT-4o, representing that kind of advanced model development.
Precisely. So different strengths, keeping them level overall, for now at least.
So wrapping up this deep dive, based entirely on the analysis you shared, it paints a picture of an incredibly tight race. Different strategies, different strengths.
Impacting everything from the AI you chat with, to the robots that might serve you coffee, to the car that drives you.
It really shows two distinct approaches playing out. One focused on speed, scale, getting it used. The other on pushing the absolute limits of what's possible and building that wider ecosystem.
That's a great summary of the dynamic the source describes.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, based only on what the source material has presented. The analysis says the race is technically neck and neck.
But it also highlights China scaling faster, while the U.S. leads in those cutting-edge breakthroughs.
So considering just those points from the source, which strategic approach, that rapid scaling and deployment, or the foundational innovation and breakthroughs, do you think will ultimately be the deciding factor? Which one wins out in determining who leads the future of AI?
That's the question the source leaves us with, a really fascinating one to think about.
Indeed it is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into your sources. Catch you on the next one.